So with the academic calendars just starting, we're going to see a whole cohort of first year PhD students just starting their journey. And what I want to do is to share a little bit about my own experiences of being a PhD student in the past, and more importantly, some tips on how to get through your first year. My first tip for you is to take note of procrastination. When you're in your first year of your PhD, your job is to start your PhD. Whether it is doing your ethical approvals or to start reading, conducting your literature review, designing your research even. But the issue is that PhD students are very good at procrastinating. PhD students tend to struggle with something called displacement activities. Displacement activities are actions or behaviors that individuals engage in when they are faced with conflicting emotions, stress, or uncertainty. And I get you. Starting a PhD is very scary. You are expected to design, plan, research, analyze, and write possibly the largest piece of writing and piece of research that you will ever do in your life. It is a massive undertaking. Displacement activities in the PhD can often look like productive activities. For example, going to training courses, taking part in someone else's research project, being a participant in someone else's research project. It's very hard to tell displacement activities apart from productive activities because we quite often justify it as it's going to be useful in the future. And I think the key thing is for you to understand and realize when you actually are procrastinating. During my PhD, I got very interested in philosophy. And I was reading a lot about ancient Greek philosophers, which wasn't very related to my PhD in healthcare education, at least not in the first year. But the point is that these activities, they start out and appear to be very important or very productive at that point. And we feel like we're doing something useful, but it's not critical, is it? So ask yourself, why am I going to this training course? Why am I marking this undergrad assignment? Why am I taking part in someone else's research? Then finally, do I really need to be doing this right now? Could I be doing something that is more directly related to my PhD or directly beneficial for my PhD at the moment? If you're not familiar with the Eisenhower matrix, it's a powerful tool that helps you categorize your tasks based on their urgency and importance. The matrix consists of 4 quadrants. So in quadrant 1, we have tasks that are urgent and important. There are tasks that will progress your research, and these are your top priorities. Quadrant 2 holds tasks that are important but not urgent. So this can be tasks like publishing a literature review, for example, certain training courses that are useful, but you can't apply what you're learning right now. So quadrant 3 contains tasks that are urgent but not important, and this can quite often be delegated. Not really helpful since PhD students do not exactly have assistants. And finally, we have quadrant 4 that consists of tasks that are neither urgent nor important, usually time wasters. And as an extension of that, my second tip for you is to prioritize the training that you need first. Do you need training to start in your PhD? Yeah, of course. Do you need to do all of your training at the start of your PhD? Not really. One thing to note is that while you feel that you're weak in data analysis, for example, you don't need to do your training immediately in the first year unless you're analyzing your data in the first year. Research studies change over the 3-year course, and you may find yourself training in something that you decide not to use next year. Only engage in training that will help you progress in your research immediately. University training programs typically repeat yearly, and you are quite likely to have multiple similar training programs repeated throughout the entire year. You should focus on training that are important first, and other training programs like how to work with long documents in Word can be scheduled for later. My advice for you is to conduct a training needs analysis and then consider when and where it's best to do those training. Tip number 3 is for you to keep your own lane. Some research design skips the entire literature review stage and goes straight to data collection. While you do have some students who have got their ethical approvals already sorted by their supervisors and they don't even need to do their research designing to begin with, there are also going to be students who already have got data and they need to start their data analysis at the start of their research instead. Your own study may have a longer data collection period or a literature review period. You may struggle with writing more, than reading, for example. It is easy to fall into the trap of comparing yourself to other PhD students, but at the end of the day, your PhD is your journey, and it is quite futile for you to compare yourself to other students who are not doing the same research as you are. You're no longer doing a master's or a degree module. You do not have the same assignments, the same targets, the same submission deadline. You may not even be researching the same field with the other students on your cohort. Comparing your progress with other students is just going to add to your stress. If you want to know your progress, plan your research over the course of 3 years in great detail, and then update this every 2 months and measure your progress against this. Learn to structure your time at work. The lack of structure is quite a problem for most students because you no longer have regular lectures or a timetable or scheduled units and modules, and the only assignment that you need to be concerned about is the one at the end of the PhD. So if you're someone who is unable to prioritize work and manage your time, then this is going to be something that will be quite difficult for you. On the other hand, some people thrive very well in this environment. The flexibility allows them to more creatively pursue their research and explore relationships in their data that are not very obvious. These are the people who love working in cafes or find inspiration by reading on a beach or write chapters hanging upside down on a trapeze or something. I don't really understand them. Personally, at the start of the PhD, I feel that some structure might actually help you get started. And when you're clearer about what you need to do and you're more confident about what your PhD is supposed to look like, then you can start to capitalize on the flexibility of the PhD to enable you to explore more areas and work on other activities like teaching, supervising, and even doing part-time internships as well. Regarding space, I feel that I get more work done in the office than at home or on my bed, so I tend to restrict myself to working at the office and try my best not to bring work home. I teach my students to keep a clear physical boundary between their workspace and their personal life. This can be working in the office, in the library, in the spare bedroom. It should be a space that serves only one purpose, which is to work, and preferably there is a door for you to shut at the end of the day when you're done working. It can even be a blanket that you throw over your laptop and your desk at the end of the day, just so that you don't have to look at it when you're resting at home. So regarding structuring your time, apart from my earlier tips about planning your research and prioritizing your training, you also need to think about when you are most effective or most productive. In a PhD, you have some flexibility with your hours and you can actually play around with your productive times. For example, I go to the gym in the morning and I don't really get into the office until 10 a.m. I am most productive after the gym, so I prioritize my writing and work that requires the most amount of mental heavy lifting when I get into the office. Then after lunch, my focus goes a little, so I start to do things like replying emails, doing some admin, things that don't really require a lot of brain. And then around 3 p.m, I get a second wind and I'm more focused again and I go back to my writing. For me, after 7 p.m, I'm completely useless. So I don't bother working. At most I do some reading, but I try not to bring my reading back home as well. Some people may be more focused at night, so try to schedule your time accordingly and see if that works for you. Additionally, if you have got duties like childcare and teaching, you want to think about how to schedule your work around those activities. It can be quite easy to be carried away by the flexibility that a PhD offers, and you find yourself spending insufficient time on your own PhD. Typically for a full-time student, you are expected to spend 35 hours and above on a PhD, so make sure that you are hitting those hours at the end of the week. So that's all I can think of at the moment, and if I think of more, I'll probably make another video about it. Now over to you. If you're a first year student, what are you most concerned about? And if you're a second or third year or fourth year student, what is your secret tip for first years? Share your thoughts and experience somewhere down below, and I will see you in the next video. Bye!